All right, so setting up the T-Rex 300X, and so just to give you a little background, I'm a really big fan of these small size, what I would call full capability helicopters. They're great tools for practice. I usually use them like as a warm-up helicopter, and then I'll fly something bigger. Or I will just, if I don't have much time, I find that these little helicopters, you can put a nice little kit together, and if you've only got a hour to fly, you can just grab your little kit and go out the door and do some flying, whereas, the larger helicopters require a little more. So this is the T-Rex 300X. I'm not going to do an unboxing. I'm pretty sure you guys can take a helicopter out of a box. But just in case you are struggling with getting it out of the box, there's a couple of pretty good videos out there, and they'll cover the twist ties on the skids and everything. So check those out. I'm going to go over what you got to do to get this thing flying, which is what I think is what most of us really want to know. So the 300X does not come with a flight controller. So that's the main thing that's involved with setting this helicopter up, is the flight controller. So I chose the Icon 2, but before I get to that, let's just say first things first, and what you should probably do is take a look at the battery and getting the battery squared away. I'm also going to try to go in the order that I think you should do things. Now, there's 1,000 different ways, and everyone's got their own way, but this is how I set it up. The first thing I would recommend that you do is start with the battery and getting the battery squared away. Now, the recommended battery for this helicopter is a 1300, and it comes with these little, so this is double-sided Velcro, which is nice to have. It's male on one side, female on the other, and you use that for strapping the battery down. And this is your typical double-sided tape type of Velcro, where it sticks to the battery, or it sticks to wherever you want it, and there's a male and a female. There's two different types, right? And so for the battery tray, I like to put the prickly side, or the male side as I usually call it, on the battery tray, because this is going to get more traffic than this, and I find that the prickly side holds up better. Now, the battery tray for the helicopter is reversible, and it's identical, so it's got 4-axis symmetry, I think they call it, so it really doesn't matter which way it goes. So just pick a side and throw some Velcro on there. So not required, but what's nice to have for the build is get yourself some Velcro. And you order it like this with the double-sided tape, and make sure that you get the prickly side and you get this. A lot of times they're sold separately. Get yourself some double-sided tape with both sides on there. The other thing that you want is, like I mentioned before, there's two kinds of Velcro. There's the single-sided with a sticky backing, and then there's this, which is the double-sided, which has both. Okay, and so this comes in rolls as well. I actually am out of my double-sided stuff from setting up other battery trays, so I just ordered another roll. At the end of the video, I'll clip in my materials that I like to use. So now with this battery, let's take a look at the helicopter. When you slide the tray into the helicopter, the frame is right there, right? So the battery is not going to be able to go any further than that, right? And now with this helicopter, there's a very tight fitting here, because you've got the frame, which won't allow the battery to go any further back, which is going to dictate where the battery is up front. And then you've got the canopy going on, okay? So it's a very, very, very tight fit on this helicopter. Now, I ordered these batteries, which were the recommended batteries. And again, just real quick, I put a little bit of Velcro on there, and that keeps the battery from sliding out of the tray, right? And this is probably more important on like a a larger helicopter, but I have had these batteries slide out. Actually, yeah, even on my 180, I didn't have a battery Velcroed. I just had it strapped down with this stuff, and I spun fast enough in the air that it threw the battery right out the front of the canopy, and of course, instantly it fell out of the air. Luckily, that was a more crashable helicopter. So this Velcro here will prevent that from happening. Then just to make it a little easier, I put a little Velcro to hold that in place. And this is what you want to do with these battery trays. You want to start opposite the tray, roll the Velcro around, and then go like this, right? Because it's going to be doubled up in a spot, and you don't want it doubled up where it's sliding through the frame, right? That's a pain. So we'll take our two battery straps here and apply them like so. And there you go. It's all set up. Okay, and now what I did was I've already slid the battery in. I marked with a marker where I want this battery tray to line up with this battery. Now here's where we'll take a look at this. Again, this is the recommended battery, right? So it's slid into there. There is just the tiniest gap, like actually there. It's right against the frame now, okay? The battery is right against the frame, so it can't go any further in. And it's the recommended size battery. Now we'll take the canopy and put it over, and what you'll notice is we've got it all lined up and everything else. Look how far the canopy mounts are from the factory holes. I don't know if you can see it, but it's pretty far. It's not forcible. I could not get it to fit, right? And so this is mostly driven by these batteries that I chose to buy. I don't know. I would assume that the Align batteries are just a bit of a different shape. They're probably a little fatter and a little shorter. And but for these batteries, I could not get these to work together. So I went to my Dremel, and this is a glass and tile bit. And I'll clip a video in at the end of actually punching these holes in this canopy. It worked really well. And for the sake of the video, I'm just going to move forward for now, and I'll clip that into the end. And now, with the canopy mounts moved back about 1 centimeter, this fits on here. It's actually still just a little tiny bit snug, but it works. It works well, I would say. And there we go. Now our canopy fits good with our battery. So we've got our canopy, our battery and our canopy all ready to go. The other thing that you're going to have to do, just so that you know, is you're going to have to solder an end onto the speed control. So the batteries, the recommended batteries came with XT60s, and so I put an XT60 on there. I'm just going to double check this canopy. All right, so now we've got our battery connector installed. We've got our battery tray all ready to use and installed. You just pull this little clip over here. I have to say that I feel like once you get this stuff all sorted away, this system works well, but this is a really tight fit. If anything is off at all, that canopy is not going to fit on, or this battery is not going to go into there. But if you get it squared away, if you do it like I just, like I'm recommending here, this will just slide right into here like that. If you had a different battery, you may not have to do the canopy holes. But with this battery, you're going to have to. And if you encounter that, I would just be prepared to do it. And I have to say that this bit, this glass and tile bit, works extremely well. Set the Dremel to full speed. I mean, it pops those holes in there nice and clean and very easily. So I wouldn't be hesitant to do that. It actually works really well. So now we've got our battery and we've got our connector and our canopy fits on our helicopter. I would say now we're ready to move forward. And this is the exact order that I would do things in. So now we're ready to move forward. So moving forward, the next thing I would recommend that you do is set up the flight controller. So we take this out. Now, I ordered a Brain Mini for this helicopter, but I had an Icon 2 here. And the reason why I chose the Icon 2 is because it has Bluetooth capabilities. So the Bluetooth capabilities will allow me to, you know, edit this thing at the field with my phone and manipulate it and change settings in it, you know, right on the fly. So to me, that was an advantage. Now, when you open the box on this, this is, oh, I don't know why that's in there, sorry. You don't need a Blade 500 tailbox gear. This is like it. You don't get anything else, just so that you know. There is a double male servo wire in there and some double-sided tape, and then the Icon unit is here. So that's all you're getting. Okay, there is no other things here. Now, what else is good about the Icon is that to interface it with your computer, the only thing that you really need to do is plug in. This cord over here is a standard phone jack cord, okay? So I've got the Icon program already on my computer, and I'm going to go ahead and plug this in here. Should light up. Boom, and there it goes. And with that, we should be able to get into it. Now that we've got our Icon plugged in, we are going to open this. Now, I did encounter this issue more than once. This cable has been plugged in, and it's been plugged and unplugged multiple times. And when I plug it in, it's saying this, okay? It's basically not detecting the item. So unplug the USB from the computer and re-plug it, and it should work. So it made the noise. Double click, scanning port, boom, we're in. Now that might just be my computer, I don't know, but if you encounter that problem, that's what you do. Now, the first time that you plug it in, like I just did, it's going to go through an update screen. It's super quick and easy. You're basically just saying yes, update. So after you do that, you'll go to this screen and you'll pick the position of the flight controller. Just keep in mind when you pick the position, they're always looking down from the helicopter, so from above. So when it says upside down, you're like, oh no, I'm not mounting it upside down. But actually, if you looked from above, you are mounting it upside down. So upside down, wires back, right? That's the orientation. And then the next step here, you select which kind of receiver you're going to use, which I'm using a DSMX satellite, so I selected that. And then we go here, and it tells you how to configure everything. Now, I'm not going to do a full setup on this because there's already a really good setup video, and I'll put the link up on the screen, and I'll also put the link at the end of the video, and I'll also put it in the video description. That video is it's really good, it's really well set up, and I'm not going to cover the same thing that's already been covered. But some notes for you, I wouldn't connect the servos at this point. What you do is you select the receiver that you're using, you go here, facing helicopter forward 1, 2, 3 is going to be this orientation to plug them in. I wouldn't do it at this point. I would say hold off on plugging the servos in. Go to your radio. Now you're going to have to do your radio settings. Now again, this is all in the video, so I'm not going to go crazy with this. But I will tell you that be cautious. If you have your flight mode, normal flight mode, like set at 70%, like that's where I usually set my normal flight mode when I start flying a helicopter, this is only going to go to 70%. So just make sure that when you get to this point and you have a radio profile that you don't have your normal mode set at 70%, because then this won't go above 70%. Speaking of which, I don't want to go too much further with this because the video covers all this stuff. but I would not plug the servos in until after I got to this page. When you get to this page here, you'll pick which type of servos you have, and you'll set the frequency settings. Now, all I did was just go to Google, and I looked up my servos on the align page, and it gave me the refresh frequencies, and this first thing, honestly, I don't even know what this first thing is. But the second thing is the refresh frequencies. And I put them in there specific to the servos that are in this helicopter. From there, connect the helicopter and follow the rest of. All right, so one thing I just want to mention real quick, if you're probably, some of you may have been wondering what's with this 3700 battery. Before you've programmed your ESC, when you're setting up your flight controller and you want to make sure that your servos are doing the right things and you're powering your servos, your cable that connects to your computer, which is, again, it's just a standard phone cable, will not power your servos. So that's what I'm using this for. You can take any speed controller. This is a lot bigger than what you need, but for the purposes of setting this up, this is what I used. Just plug in a speed controller and plug this into any open channel. This is the BEC line from this speed controller. This is what I used when I was setting up the flight controller before I had set up the speed control. So I wasn't using the speed controller to set up the flight controller. I was using this ESC BEC connection. Now you could use a little battery pack, you could use the Ultra Defender, you can use anything you want. This is a lot, you know, you could use a little 20 amp speed control, anything with a BEC, but you will need to have power to the flight controller in order to test the servos, and I don't recommend using the speed control. I would do it this way. Follow the rest of the directions on this video. Again, there's a really good video on this, and I'm not going to cover the same things. DX9, so at this point, if you don't already, you should be setting up you're going to have to set up a profile, because after you connect your satellite, I was able to, let's just disconnect this. So I was able to put a bind plug in this gov port, and that made the satellite, you know, go into bind mode, and then just binded it. So, I mean, the way this thing fits, it fits in there perfectly. So it fits right in there like this. The satellite plug is right in this whole frame. Plug the satellite in right there. Now, again, there's a million different ways to do things. I'm sure somebody's going to criticize this, but I've got my satellite mounted right back here, so I've got antennas in both directions. I don't love that it's only on these two frame pieces, but I've got it zip tied right here. So even if it came loose, it's not like it could go up and get in the blades. So I'll keep an eye on this as time goes on, but that's where I just tossed it for now. And it's not bad. I mean, I might keep it there. I don't know, I might not. So now at this point, you've got your flight controller set up after you've gone through that video. I have another video that I will clip in at the end on how to set up a profile in this remote if you don't know how to set up a helicopter profile in a remote. It's not super complicated. There's not a lot to it. There's better videos than the one I made out there if you want to go through it in more detail. But my video that I'll put at the end of this video does go through what you're going to need to do to set this remote up. The 2-foot stompers that I would say are in your flight modes, make sure you set up hold. And number 2, if you set up your throttle in normal, like at 70%, like I normally do, make sure it's not at 70% when you do the setup on the flight controller, because then it won't go above 70%, and you need to do full travel ranges when you sync the remote with the flight controller. All right, so now you've got your remote programmed, you've got your flight controller programmed. last thing is your speed control. Now this is an aligned speed control, which is basically a hobby wing speed control. I'll tell you what you have to do. You have to calibrate your throttle stick to this speed control. And there is a way to do it with the flight controller, but honestly, I don't do that way. Everyone's got their own way, and I'll just show you how I do it. So how I do it is I disconnected my channel 2 and I just dropped a servo extension cord on there, and I plugged it into this little receiver right here. And then this little receiver right here, I just have a separate profile for. I just use this specifically for hobby wing speed controls. Yes, model select. So I got a profile in here called Hobby Wing ESC, right? And so that just links to this thing. But if I ever am calibrating a Hobby Wing ESC, this is a super easy way to do it. It doesn't have to be this one either. You can use a receiver with the push button or any kind of receiver at all. All you do is plug in the speed controller with the battery connected to it to this receiver, okay? Unplug the battery, put the throttle all the way up to full, plug the battery back in. You'll hear 2 beeps on the Hobby Wing ESC. After you hear the 2 beeps, you lower the throttle all the way down. Now you'll hear beeps again, and then the ESC will initiate, and now your throttle is calibrated to your ESC, okay? Now, after that is done, what I would do is unplug the bind plug if you're using one. Go back to your T-Rex 300 profile. Make sure the battery is unplugged. Plug the ESC back in to channel 2, I believe it is. No, channel 1. The ESC with this configuration plugs into channel 1. Using this receiver, plugs into channel 1. So plug the ESC back into channel 1. Now the ESC is calibrated to your remote. But you know, you did it, and your remote is calibrated to your flight controller when you went through the setup over there. Now everything is all calibrated. Now the last thing that you can do, if you so choose to, which I like to, is set up your governor on your speed control. So the way this thing comes, it's going to go into ELF Gov, which means that every time you spool your helicopter up, you're really supposed to sit there at 50% for 20 seconds, because your ESC is going to start its calibration every time you spin your helicopter up. And if you don't do that, supposedly, theoretically, the way it's supposed to go, if it's in ELF Gov, which it is right out of the box, and you don't hover there for a minute before you take off, who knows where it's going to lock in at 70%. You may get a different RPM every time. If you have the multi-function programmer and you plug it into, there's a little servo lead hanging right off, so you just plug this, again, I like to grab this extension, plug this in here, plug it in here, just plug in the Hobby Wing speed controller. It'll come up on here, go to step 1, it'll be set in ELF Gov from the factory. The very first thing I would do is run to the last option and do a factory reset, and then I would go back to step 1 and set it in Gov Stow. And after I set it in Gov Stow, then I would do the throttle calibration with this. So it's been factory reset, then it's been set to your throttle on your remote, and then I would do the 50%. Now, again, there's a lot of good videos out here on this Hobby Wing. Honestly, if you just calibrate your ESC, calibrate your throttle stick, and just let the helicopter spin up for a minute on the ground before you fly. That's all you'd have to do. But if you don't want to bother with that and you want to have a permanent RPM fix, then you get the program box and switch to Gov Stow, and then you run it. You do a calibration run. There's a really good video on that, and I will link that into the description of this video, and I'll put it at the end of the video. So you want to watch the Icon full setup video, and you want to watch the I would recommend watching both videos, you know, before you set the thing up. And that will make all of this go a lot easier if you haven't done it. And so with that, the helicopter is all set up. And so I did all that last night. And this morning, I took it out and hovered it, and it flew good. I'll probably do a quick hover flight to put at the end of this video, but it's all set. It's flying. It's running good. The batteries are working good. I flew it for 4 minutes and it was at 50%. But I was just hovering. It's not like I was beating on it. But it did fly. It did run good, and that was everything I needed to do to go from out of the box to flying the helicopter. Now, the last thing that I like to do is I like to have a carry case for my helicopters. So I punched the specs of the size of this thing, and I picked a box that would be the ideal size, and I actually couldn't find an aluminum box that was these dimensions. So I found this, which is, well, it's a toolbox. It just happens to work. And with this, you can put your remote in there, and the canopy doesn't affect it. You can put that in there too. It's not on there at the moment. And then you can put your helicopter in there like so. And this is kind of neat. If you cut this tray just like this, this foam blade grip actually slides into this tray and locks this helicopter right in place. So the helicopter can't move in there. See how sturdy that is? And then you can just throw all your batteries in there, and now you got everything you need to head off to the job site for a long day at work. But that's it. That's everything I needed to do to set up the helicopter. It flies well. I'm super happy with it. I think it's going to make an excellent trainer for some of the more aggressive 3D maneuvers that I haven't tried outside the sim yet. And I think it's going to make a good warm-up helicopter, you know, for the larger ones when I haven't flown, you know, in maybe a little while, and you want to go out and actually get your hands on a real helicopter outside the sim before you fly one of your larger, you know, more expensive to repair type of setups. So there it is, T-Rex 300X, everything you need to do to get it out of the box and ready to really go out to the field and put through some fun flights. If you got any questions, just leave them in the message. As always, if you like the video, please thumbs up. Please subscribe, and I will try to get you some flight videos on this guy shortly. Get out our Dremel. So I find with fiberglass, you know, what I like to do is just run it really, really high speed. And perfect. Yeah. Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, it looks good there. Now the problem here is that these should be here, and now they're back here a little bit, so. good. Yeah, it's much better. All right. All right, let's check it out. Put this back on here, like so. All right, that looks good. All right, it's a lovely day here in the Northeast, and we're gonna give our 300X just a little test flight. Just I did hover it once, but that was it. I haven't done anything else. Haven't had it in stunt mode or done any of that stuff yet, so I'm not gonna go crazy with this flight. I'm just around the corner from my house. And of course, I'm gonna check the battery, but it should be good to go. I just charged this, make sure I didn't get them mixed up or anything. Okay, 100%, perfect. All right, we'll turn our radio on. 300X, perfect. Take our blade grip off. Set our heli down on the ground, nice flat surface. Power it up. Oh. Give it a minute until it initiates. There it goes. Now it's all initiated. I'm gonna push this up to 50% just so those blades go parallel. And put our canopy on with our shifted back canopy mount. Should be relatively easy. Now, just because this is a operational test flight, I just want to take the heli, pay attention to the head. When I shift it left, it should shift back right, and there it goes, it does. Shift right, shifts to the left. When I shift it forward, it should pull down, and it does. Shift it back, it shifts up. So that tells us that our flight controller is programmed appropriately. Let's move it a little further out. All right, there we go. I'll pull our throttle down, turn hold off.
Mid rate, high rate.
I'm just going to use low rates because we're just going to do a little basic test flight. Here we go. An exciting moment. A little windy out here. Now I did back the RPMs down to 65%. Oh yeah, those settings are really soft. Really soft. The 50% expo, really easy to hover. I'm just kicking it a little to the left and it's like barely responding. So let me just try. That's mid rates. That's 30% expo, a little better. I'm gonna go ahead and kick it to high rates because it's just, so that's high rates now. Okay, that's better. I like the high rates, which is only 15% expo. So yeah, 15% expo is plenty. Now I got it idling low. It's at 65%. I'm gonna put it in stunt 1, which is at 70, which you see a little jump. And there it is. Definitely a lot more rigid in stunt 1. Yeah, that's better. So So for like real docile, easy flying, you can in normal mode, it's at 65%. I'll go back to it. Whoop. I'll go back to it. So that's normal mode. You can see that's at 65%. 65% throttle right there. And now we'll jump to 70. That's stunt 1. Stunt 2, I believe, is 80. We'll jump to 80. There's stunt 2. We're going to stay on stunt 1. And we'll just do a little flip it over. Whew. Quite reactive. It really, with the full travel with this flight controller, it really took off with the negative. But it's flying. I don't want to horse around with it too much in this kind of small area. But the heli is definitely flying. Right now is in stunt 1 at 70%. There's stunt 2, 80%. A little bit of a wag there. Might have to turn that gyro gain down a little bit. So there's stunt 1, 70%. And normal mode's way down at 60. Wow, that's low. Very responsive helicopter though, wow. Yeah, I'm super happy with it. It's one of those little helicopters that I feel like flies like a larger helicopter. Now that's the Icon 2. I probably have some tuning to do to get it perfect. We get a swash leveler on there. I just eyeballed all this stuff on my table, on my workbench. But there it is, no hands. And that's 4 minutes. Oh, I'm gonna fly a little more than that though. There it is, T-Rex 300X, all programmed. I've got a little more tuning to do, I think, to get it nailed in, but it's up and flying. Took me, I'd say, about 2 hours to get it all set up and out and flying. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. It flies really well. That satellite didn't move at all. I got a wire to clean up there, but I like its travel case. It works really well and flies good. I'm happy with the canopy mod. Canopy went on the way I would normally expect the canopy to. Up here it was just way too tight. So there it is, T-Rex 300. Little maiden operational check flight. I can't wait to do a little more with this thing. All right, so today I want to talk about setting up a Spektrum radio for a new helicopter. And if you're flying a lot of other, there's some helicopters where you can go to Spektrum and you can download a profile. And for a lot of years, that's pretty much what I would do, is go and download a profile onto my desktop and then load the profile onto this SD chip and then insert the SD chip into the remote and then load it. But for some helicopters, you don't have preset profiles, so you're going to have to build one. But it's actually, it's not that hard. There's not a whole lot to it, but let's take a look at it now. So what we're going to do is go to System Setup, and we're going to say yes, we're sure, and Model Select, and we're going to go down to Add a New Model. Okay, so click Add a New Model. We're going to click Create. and there it goes. So we don't have to click model select, we're already in the new profile. So then we're going to go to model type, and this is going to be a helicopter. Now I'm setting this up for the Blade 3 or the T-Rex 300X. So we're going to select helicopter, model be reset, that's fine, yes. Model name, here, boom. So there we go. We've got our T-Rex 300X entered in there. So we're going to hit back. For swash type, you're just going to leave it in normal because we're going to be using a flight controller. We're going to be using the brain too with this, and I'll do a little something on programming that too. So for flight mode setup, the only thing I want to do here is I want to go to the hold switch and activate it. So we're going to go to hold switch, and then all I'm going to do is flip the switch. Right, so there, now that's my hold switch. And I would highly encourage you to set up your hold switch right away. Whenever you set up a model, you know, you want to have hold. Spoken flight mode, we're not going to worry about that. Channel assign, we're not going to do anything there. And so we're done with this, I guess you would call the right side of the menu. So we're going to go scroll back to the top, go to the main screen. Mode. So normal mode.
Hold mode.
Now it automatically set the vocals to that because we selected hold mode. So
normal mode, hold mode, normal mode.
Now this switch was automatically selected because we clicked on flight modes.
Stunt 1, stunt 2.
Okay, so this switch was automatically set up and the vocals were automatically set up for this switch.
Stunt 1, normal mode.
Okay, but what was not set up that you're going to have to go in and do is you're going to have to go to, let's go to throttle, not throttle cut, let's go to throttle curve. So our normal mode is linear, and that's fine. Actually, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to leave it in linear. Now, keep in mind, when you set up your speed control, you may have to go back and do some different things with your throttle curve, depending on which speed control you're using. But as far as this one is concerned, I just want to show you how I would set this up. So I'm just going to go 170, 70, 70, and 70. All right, so that's how I'm going to set up my throttle curve. Okay, I'm just going to go in normal mode. It's just going to go from 0 to 70. And this is where I'm going to start, and I'll see where to go with the model from there. Now, again, you may have to go in and do some different things depending on what type of speed control you're using. I'm pretty sure for the 300X, what we're going to have to do is a 50% throttle calibration to use the Gov Stow mode. But when I get it here and I go through the programming individually, we'll see what we have to do. But most importantly, here's what, you know, I've been bitten by. Take a look at your throttle curve for stunt 1. Yes, it's still in normal mode. And believe it or not, I have actually really badly messed up a helicopter like this because I took it out and was flying it around and I said, oh, I'll set up the stunt mode later. In the meantime, I flipped the helicopter. I'm outside hovering around. It's running great. I'm doing like a maiden flight. I flip the helicopter up. I put it in stunt 1, flip it upside down, pull the throttle down, and I have no throttle. And it crashes into the ground, and I break a bunch of parts. So what you need to do is go and set it up for stunt. Now, the way I set up my stunt 1 is just the same as my normal 70% limit. I like to just start there. So to set up stunt 1, I'm just going to do 70% straight across. So there is 70% straight across. And there's that. Okay. And then we'll go to stunt 2. And the way I like to set that up is 80% straight across. So nothing tricky going on here, just setting up 80% straight across. Now we can use stunt mode. You'd be able to, assuming the helicopter is set up correctly, this remote is ready to do stunt mode. Stunt 1 is going to be 70%, so you know, nothing crazy, just these are just basic settings. So there you go. Stunt 1.
Stunt 1.
Stunt 1 is going to be 70% straight across. It's not showing it because I've got that there. So stunt 1 is 70% straight across. Stunt 2 is 80% straight across. Normal mode is 0 and then 70 all the way across. Now again, I'm just going to say it one more time. Depending on what sort of ESC you're using, you probably have to go back and play with this throttle and to get the ESC set up correctly. Now let's just take a look at pitch curve. I don't do anything with it. It's straight across. Now again, to set up the ESC, I'll probably put the normal mode right at 50%. So we have 0 pitch going on during the throttle calibration on the ESC. But for now, I'm just going to leave it alone. These are what I would call flight settings. Stunt 1, I just want linear. Stunt 2, I just want linear. Okay, so that is what I'm going to do there. Now, let's just talk about dual rates and expos. So sometimes for airplanes, you'll limit travel and stuff. So you'll have to look at dual rates more when you set up your flight controller. But let's just talk about expo for now. And what I'm going to do is we'll go to expo, and the switch is just set up for on. I like to use my C switch for expo, okay? And this is actually what I make my rate switch. Okay, so I go high rates. High rates is all the way up. Low rates is all the way down. That's the way I like to set the switches up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to switch and flip it. So now my C switch is activated for my aileron. Now I'm going to have to go up and go over to elevator and come down and do the same thing. Now my C switch is set up for my elevator. Now I'm going to have to go to rudder and go down, and my C switch is activated for my rudder. And then let's just go back to aileron so we can start from the beginning. In position number 2, this is the switch all the way down. That's what I like to make my low rates. So we're going to set my expo high, right? So that is going to be, now this is just for the first flight. I don't know where I'm going to wind up with this helicopter, but I'm going to go all the way up to 50%. So now I'm going to move my switch to the mid position, and you'll see it went back to 0, and then I'm going to go to 35%. And then we're going to go back to the top position for the high rates, and that's just going to be 10%. Right? So when I first attempt to fly this helicopter, I'm going to fly it all the way down here in low rates with 50% expo. Okay? And it'll probably be very docile. I'll just be hovering it and doing some basic maneuvers. After I get a little more comfortable with it, I'll move it up to my mid rates, which is 35%. It'll be a little more aggressive. And then when I flip it all the way up to my low rates, or I'm sorry, my high rates, it's going to have very little assistance from the remote, and it's going to move much faster. So that's high rates, that's mid rates, and that's low rates. Okay, so that's how I have that set up on my aileron channel. Now, what I'm going to go back and do is, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to make you sit through it, but I'm going to do the same thing for the elevator and for the rudder channel. It's already assigned to switch C. I'll just go back and I will make the rates 10, 35, and 50% for rudder and elevator, just like we did here for these. Then what I'm going to do is go back to the list and go down here. Now this is, again, preference of the operator, but I'm going to go to custom voice setup. That was just the standard timer. I'm going to go to custom voice setup. So there's custom voice setup. We're going to add a new sound event, and it's going to be a switch change report. And then we're going to go to the switch, and we're going to hit the roller like that to get into that menu. And we're going to throw that C switch that we have our rates, where our expos are set up, right? And there's the C switch. Now I'm going to move the switch to the high position. That's where I have my high position set up, right? And so that is position 0. So then we're going to go to that item, and we are going to scroll down to high rates. And these are all of the different things that you can make this make these switches say. So there's high rates. Right, now we're going to switch to this one, and this is going to be mid rates. Mid rates. Boom, right there. Then the last position, position number 3, is going to be low rates. So we're going to click it, and we're going to go down to low rates. Low rates, right there. We select low rates. Now there they are. Now let's go back and let's get out of the voice menu. And now watch what happens when we flip our switch.
Mid rates, low rates, mid rates, high rates.
Okay, so what we've done is we've assigned this switch, and then we've gone in and we've set the rates up, and then we've gone to custom voice setup and made it talk.
Low rates.
So again, when I try to take off, I'm going to go to low rates.
Low rates.
Okay, so at low rates, this, my cyclic controls are going to be low. It's going to be very soft and easy to fly.
Mid rates.
Mid rates are going to be more aggressive. I'm going to have a medium level of control.
High rates.
And high rates, there's going to be very little expo or assistance, and I'll usually have the fullest amount of travel. Now, on an airplane, I usually will limit the travel, like the low rates, I'll only do like 80% travel on a maiden flight, or even 70% travel if it's got a very large control surface. Like on the Bighorn, I think I'm only doing 65% travel at low rates. On helicopters, I don't usually mess with the dual rates. I just do expo. And that's just the way I like to set the remote up. And so, I mean, that's pretty much it as far as what you have to set up in the remote. Servo settings, you can do a little adjustment after you get connected to your flight controller, but generally just leave things alone. Dual rates and expos we have set up. Throttle cut.
Hold mode.
We activated hold mode, and it automatically assigned the vocals to it as well. Throttle curve, we went in and we set that. And that's pretty much it. The only other thing we're going to have to do is gyro. And this is going to depend on your model. I like to use switch D. So well, how was that for timing? While we were making this video, I got a knock at the door, and the helicopter that we are making this remote settings for, it showed up. So, well, that was pretty good timing. I'm not going to do an unboxing. I'm pretty sure you guys can open a box, but we'll go through more settings with this and what it takes to get it flying. But let's get back to the remote. So for gyro settings, what I like to do is just set the gyro at 50%. Now this is just my technique. I start at 50%. And so we'll put that in there, 50%. The other thing that is you know, I have done is just get a hold of somebody who's flying that particular helicopter and ask them what percentage they're using with that flight controller. If you know someone who is flying that helicopter with that flight controller, then go that route. But if you don't, then I would do this. So I'm going to start at 50%, and then my second switch is going to be set at 40%. So we're going to try a little drop. And then my third position switch is going to be set at 60%. And so what I can do is, if the 50% isn't good, I can drop it down to 40% and see how it responds. If the 40% is better, then I can go in and change the 60%. If the 40% is worse, then I can drop it down to 60% to see what a 10% increase does. So we'll see what happens when I go to try that out. But that's my approach to the gyro settings. If I have no idea what a person is using for that particular flight controller and that particular helicopter, then I just start at 50% and go from there. That's the setting that I would put into my gyro when I, first test the model out. On this particular helicopter, I don't have any, feedback yet. But I do know somebody. I may get a hold of them, shoot them a message, and see what percentage they're using. So that's pretty much it. This is pretty much all set up now. I would be ready to, now you can play around. We're not doing telemetry. As far as the timer, what I'm going to do with this one is maiden flight. Just to start, I'm going to do 4 minutes in a countdown style timer. That's pretty safe. I mean, you're going to get 4 minutes out of a hover out of just about anything. So I'll hover it for 4 minutes, and then I'll test the battery and see where the battery is at from there. And that's it. It's pretty much all set up and ready to go. And now I just need to get my flight controller set up. And I've got the basic settings into the radio. We've got some
mid rates, high rates, mid rates, low rates.
We've got some vocal settings. Now, whenever I pick a remote up to fly a model, one of the first things that I'll do is I'll look at the switches and I'll see how they're set up.
Stunt 2, Stunt 1, normal mode.
Now, for my helicopters, I'm pretty consistent in the way I have this set up. This is going to be my stunt mode. This is going to be my rates. And this is going to be my gyro. And honestly, once I get my gyro set up, I usually just leave it in this top position. Now, I don't have vocals set up to that, but I can go back and assign vocals to it, just like we did for this. And it'll just say something gyro. It'll say gyro gain, right? And that's just so if I reach up here to adjust my rates and I accidentally throw this one, it'll say gyro gain. And then I know I flipped the wrong switch. So I kind of like those settings. I know some people don't like to use the vocals. I didn't really understand how to attach the vocals to the switches when I first got the remote, but it's not too complicated at all. I like to use this for a trainer switch, so I don't use it a whole lot on my helicopters, but on my airplanes, this is almost always a trainer switch. And then this is almost always my hold. This is always my hold switch.
Hold mode.
Every model I fly, this is my hold mode. Again, I would encourage, set up a hold mode always.
Normal mode, hold mode.
And then, this is a random switch. I can kind of use this for some different stuff. I broke this one off here, but I don't tend to use those too much. So those are the basic settings that I'm going to need to get this 300X going. Those are the same settings that I use to get my 500X going. They're the same settings I use to get my 650 going. You know, and then you just tune the settings from there. So hopefully you find that helpful and can get the basic settings set up to get your helicopter flying. So these are the things I use throughout the build. This is the covering I usually put over the servos. I was actually out of this. This was the hook and loop Velcro that I use for the batteries. This was that double-sided Velcro that I was talking about that we use with the batteries. And here's XT60s that I ordered and I use. You're going to need those if you want them. These are the batteries that I use that had the XT60s on them. I'd recommend you order a couple extra battery trays. And then this is the Dremel bit that I use that work really good on the canopy. It's great for making adjustments. This is a Icon 2 that I ordered with the Bluetooth, and then this is the program that you'll have to download to modify that. And then we've got our control box for our ESC, and then we've got our toolbox that we used as a carrying case.